Moving to next topic, organ specific or tissue specific manifestation. What does it mean? It means that a pathogen can enter our body from several places. May it be your mouth, may it be your skin, may it be your nose. Alright, and where do these pathogens go? Now the question mark is, where do they go? In most of the cases, the infection of tissues or organs depends upon the point of entry of the pathogen. Let's take an example how. We say virus that causes common cold enters through nose, right? And affects the respiratory tract. Similarly, second example, tuberculosis causing bacteria. It's a bacterial disease. It will enter through the nose and affect lungs. Now these two are entering from the nose and affecting either the respiratory tract or the lungs, not the digestive system. Clear? So that is what we mean to say that infection of a tissue or organ depends upon the point of entry of pathogen. Then if it enters through mouth, any antigen that enters through mouth, if it is a waterborne disease, then they are most likely to affect our liver. Example, jaundice. So sometimes, or the organ of the digestive system, like when the bacteria enters the body, in case of typhoid, it enters through mouth, then it may infect our digestive system as well. However, it is not always necessary that it will affect like this only, because there are certain exceptions where we talk about that point of entry does not exactly cause the disease where it has reached. Example, AIDS. In exception, because in AIDS, virus may enter through anywhere, maybe through sex organs, maybe through the blood, direct blood infection, maybe through the placental cord of mother. But what is the effect? If it enters, it affects the lymph nodes, and all over the body it spreads, which will make the body loss of immunity, means our immune system is attacked. So in this case we cannot say that it is pathogen specific, pathogen is site specific. Secondly, Japanese encephalitis. It's a virus causing Japanese encephalitis. This is known as brain fever. It enters through this is a brain fever problem. Now what happens in it? Virus which is causing Japanese encephalitis, it enters the human blood through mosquito bite. Mosquito bite. And where does it reach? Brain, to cause brain fever. So this is another different example in exception. Clear? What are the common effects of infectious diseases? What do they do? When these enter our body, what is the main problem or the main hurdle that the body has to face? We say common effects of infectious diseases. See, if this pathogen enters our body and the immune system becomes active in response to pathogen, it has gained entry, what will it do? It will elicit a response in the immune system. That means our immune system has to get alarmed. It will send WBCs to the area where there is infection. These are of two types, B cells and T cells. Antibody mediated and cell mediated. Now these are T helper cells, T killer cells, and these are immunoglobulins. IgG, IgM. Alright, Ig stands for immunoglobulin. Now these cells can help in the production of antibodies. Alright, these WBCs, these will fight against the infection, against that pathogen by releasing certain chemicals. So these chemicals which are released by these B and T cells will attack the pathogen. And there is always antigen antibody interaction. Supposingly this is antigen, so a similarly looking antibody will fight and will kill the pathogen. Ultimately क्या होगा? This is antigen antibody interaction. Antigen or the pathogen will be destroyed or killed. Clear? And whenever this defensive mechanism is taking place in the body, what will happen? Supposingly there is a mosquito bite, you will start, there is itching always on that part. You will start scratching that area. It will lead to inflammation. That is the defensive action of the immune system. Defensive action of the immune system against the pathogen. It is called inflammation. Inflammation meaning the local effect. It is the local effect always. Whenever there is redness, whenever there is swelling in the area where there is mosquito bite, whenever there is antigen antibody interaction taking place, so the local effect is always inflammation. A defensive action of the immune system against the pathogen or in response to the pathogen. This is pain, this is redness, this is swelling, and it may lead to fever also. Clear? Now, next is, what do signs and symptoms of a disease depends on? Sign and symptom. Now, first is, if the pathogen targets your brain area, clear? It may lead to giddiness, headache, vomiting. If the pathogen target lungs, then it may lead to TB, tuberculosis. As in case of tuberculosis, I am taking an example of the problem or the disease. It may cause cough, it may cause pain in chest, and it may cause breathlessness. Alright, if it attacks intestine region, then example in cholera disease. In brain you can write encephalitis disease. Japanese encephalitis we have just covered, no? That would be a better example. In intestine, like in cholera, it causes stomachache, it causes vomiting, and it may cause diarrhea. Alright, and in some cases, the infectious disease does not affect a particular organ. We have already done this example, HIV/AIDS. In this kind of infection, the virus breaks down the body's immune system, right, leaving the victim vulnerable to a host of various infections, maybe neurological disorders, right, various infections, neurological disorders, and various forms of cancer too. So, AIDS patient always die because of secondary infection that we have already covered. Patient dies always because of from this secondary infection because of the failure of his or her defense mechanism, as the patient cannot fight with any simple disease at that moment of time. Now the question arises, if it happens, what does the diversity of disease manifestation depends on? Like for how long? For how long the pathogen lives inside the body, and for how long this kind of symptom and sign will appear, right? So diversity of disease manifestation, right? We say pathogen, whenever it enters our body, it lives there and multiply at the cost of our body, right? And what it does in return affect the functioning of our body. And our body takes time to recover and to fight with a large number of pathogens. Basically, it's the number of pathogen that enters our body and affect our immune system. Alright, if number of pathogen that enters our body is less, obviously the severity of the disease will not be that intense. Clear? We have to fight with this infection for a little period of time, and effect cost is not severe and may even go unnoticed, like you have sneezing for a particular period of time, maybe 1 minute or 2 minutes, or maybe for a day. It cannot be prolonged. So our immune system may easily overcome the small number of pathogens. So number of pathogen and duration, as long as the disease is in our body, these two will automatically affect the duration, that manifestation of the disease prolongation. Now principle of treatment. Principles of treatment of an infectious disease. What can we do? Number one, we can help it by reducing the effect of a disease. By reducing the effect of a disease means treatment is provided to stop the or reduce the symptoms. Symptoms that may be general, that may be specific, like fever, headache, stomach ache, inflammation. So treatment is given to reduce these symptoms. Then bed rest, always. When the body is at rest, not functioning so much, in order to conserve energy, we will get a better cure. Alright. Number two, by killing or eliminating the pathogen. Eliminating the pathogen means, what have we done? We have reduced the effect in first point and completely eradicated the effect in the second case. In this note we can write that There are certain pathways, biochemical pathways, which are essential for their survival, as we have done an example of bacteria. Bacteria used to make a biochemical pathway. That biochemical pathway that is chosen is by making cell wall. So we can take a medicine which can kill the cell wall easily and will not allow this infectious agent to propel to grow in our body. Therefore, we have to attack the biochemical pathways of all these parasites, of all these pathogens. Alright, microbes can be killed by taking medicines which are going to affect their biochemical pathway. So, a drug can be effective against one type of infectious agent but will not work for all. This we have already covered. In case of bacteria, they make a cell wall. Right, that is their biochemical pathway. But in case if I am giving that person an antiviral, that antiviral dose is not going to affect in case of viral infection. Clear? Because virus has its own type of action on the body. Virus does not have a body onto it. It leaves its protein coat outside. Its nucleic acid moves inside the host cell, which will take up the host machinery and produce its own copies. Virus has a different mechanism. Now we are coming to that only. I'm taking an example of a bacteriophage. You know what is this? It's a cell. This is a virus causing bacteria. Bacteriophage. It has its own DNA. Now what will happen whenever there is a virus infection? Virus protein coat never enters the cell body. It's the nucleic acid which enters the cell. This nucleic acid will take over this host cell machinery. Supposingly the cell machinery is this one. Okay, the blue one. It's the nucleic acid of a cell, and this one is the nucleic acid of this particular virus. Now what will happen? It will propagate in this manner. This nucleic genome will become a part of the host nucleic acid, and automatically our cell will produce multiple copies of the host itself instead of our copies. Why? Because our nucleic acid is overpowered by this genome, and this genome is now going to spread its infection and takes over the host machinery, producing its own copies, none of these copies. Alright, so next produced copies are always the one which the virus looks like. This is what will be the next copy that will be formed in our body. That means the viral infection. This is how the virus infection spreads in our body. Then the question arises, how to make antiviral drugs? It's very difficult to make antivirus drugs. Make antiviral drugs compared to making antibacterial ones, because first of all, viruses are not made of cells. Remember when we started our first chapter, we discussed example of COVID-19. It is a lipid protein molecule, right? So these are not made up of cells, first thing. Number two, once they enter the cell of human body, they multiply using the cellular resources of our body. It means there are very few specific targets, and whenever they enter our body, they will be choosing our body cell targets. Once they are using human machinery, so if we are taking drugs, they are using human machinery, and if we are taking drugs, the drugs may interfere with the human biochemical pathways. Clear? And thus affect us, affect the patient. Therefore, it is very difficult to make antiviral drugs compared to the antibacterial drugs. Then the next question comes, how to prevent a disease? If we are saying, we are talking like that it is very difficult to make these drugs, then how to prevent a disease? It has become a task now, how to prevent diseases. There are many different ways, like general also, specific also. General are the common ways that we always use at home, the local ones. Specific is like taking some kind of injection related to some particular problem, that is the specific one. Now, talking about general, if we say general, it means first of all balanced diet. If you're following a balanced diet, nothing can happen. It will automatically boost your immune system. It is the most important condition for a health of an individual. Because when you take balanced diet, oxidation of nutrients cause a release of energy without which we cannot survive. And a balanced diet obviously ensures a strong immune system. Clear? Strong immune system which will help us to fight with so many diseases. And a person who takes a balanced diet will automatically be less prone to diseases. Then, if we are talking about another aspect, first is the balanced diet, second would be obviously proper hygiene. Proper hygienic conditions. We have talked about public health, community health, right? And community health, because these two are equally important. Hygiene is the practice of keeping things around oneself clean in order to prevent illness and disease. So, what should we do? We should maintain personal hygiene, and we should believe in practices such as taking regular bath, wearing clean clothes, brushing teeth regularly, clipping nails, washing hands after meals. And whenever you are visiting outside these days, it's always advised to use a disinfectant. Clear? And we can also adapt certain other favorable habits like dealing with disposal of sewage and the human waste properly, not throwing litter here and there. Then third would be taking clean food and water. Now, how is this different from the above one? It is the duty of municipal corporation to provide clean water in your area. Alright. Many disease-causing organisms and harmful pollutants in the form of chemicals can enter our body through these disinfectant food and water. Clear? So disease-causing organisms like pollutants and certain pathogens, they may enter our food, our body through these foods and drinks. We should first of all take proper care that whatever the food we are bringing home, the vegetables, fruits, it has to be washed thoroughly and well cooked. Clear? And if your society is not providing proper water, then drink always boiled water. This will kill 90% of the germs. Then we have to inhale clean air. For that, you need to keep your surroundings clean. Right? We need to have a constant supply of fresh air. This polluted air may cause asthma, bronchitis, No doubt, it is not in your control to keep it, clean, to keep the air clean and pollution free. But yes, we can adapt some basic measures that we can minimize the rate of pollutants in the air. Clear? Like we can start living in relatively less polluted area. We can keep our houses well ventilated. We can use smokeless chullas. We can use exhaust fans. We can use air purifiers at home. We can keep our house clean. We can keep our surroundings clean. This will help us to have clean air. Right? These are all the general ways. Now coming to specific ways. When we are talking about specific ways, we are talking about our immune system, right? Our immune system, what it does, it has, if you remember, IgM cells, memory cells, which means they click a picture of pathogen that has already entered your body. So, suffering from one disease can prevent subsequent attack of the same disease. Suffering from a disease can prevent subsequent attacks of the same disease. How? Because this is the basis of immunity and immunization program. Our immunity, it has a property to fight against the foreign substances or microbes by producing antibodies. Supposingly an antigen has already entered your body. So your body will click a picture of that antigen through these memory cells, and that will be fitted in the brain. Automatically when the subsequent disease or its so-called a cofactor will enter your body will recognize, and antibodies are already produced in your body against that pathogen. This is due to the immunological memory. This allows even more effective protection during future encounter with the same pathogen. This allows even more effective protection. Clear? And this is the principle of immunization. What happens in immunization? We say it is the term used for the introduction of dead or weak germs. Germs mean pathogens, antigens in the body of living organisms, in order to keep immunity or resistance against that particular disease. In order to keep or develop immunity or resistance against the particular disease. Why the immunization program is set for babies? Only because their body should have this dead or weak germs, so that whenever this kind of infection will encounter in future, their babies can easily fight off the infection and can eliminate this infection even faster than it attacks. Alright, so this is one way out using this specific mechanism. Then is, what is vaccination? Who introduced the term vaccination? Vaccination, it was introduced by Edward Jenner. He observed that milkmaids who have already cowpox, a very simple mild disease, did not develop smallpox. So there was no smallpox observed in those people who earlier had cowpox. He took the fluid from a cowpox infected person. Fluid, contaminant, and inoculated. In an 8-year-old boy. What for? Just to see that basically what is he doing? He is exposing his body to this smallpox. This kind of antigen, this dead and weak antigen which has been collected from this cowpox diseased man, it is inoculated in this boy simply so that this boy can have resistance against this smallpox. But how did he know that? This is already set an example by the milkmaids, that once they had cowpox they did not show the symptoms of smallpox in the later life. So he used this fluid as inoculation to provide immunity against smallpox. After 6 weeks, he exposed the boy to smallpox. He exposed the same problem to this boy after a period of 6 weeks, but no smallpox. Because in the meantime, this inoculated fluid had so many antibodies in the body that this disease cannot procure in the body. Automatically, this disease did not show its effect. The reason being that the cowpox virus is closely related to smallpox virus. And since it is related to it, the term was coined vaccine. Vacca means cow in Latin. So, the term vaccine is coined. Alright, only because this thing worked so effectively. Understood? So, what he did, he has chosen milkmaids who had cowpox and did not develop smallpox. So, he took the fluid from the cowpox infected person. This one is inoculated in an 8-year-old baby. And then after 6 weeks, he exposed the boy to the smallpox disease. But the boy did not develop any symptoms of smallpox. Reason that cowpox is quite related to the smallpox disease, and therefore body of that baby has enough number of antibodies or developed enough immunity to fight off with the infection, from where he developed or coined the term vaccine also. So it is a process of introducing live or weakened microbes into the body of an organism to produce immunity against a particular disease. This is what is known as vaccine. So what is vaccine? It is the process of introducing live or dead or weakened pathogens into the body of an organism to produce immunity against a particular disease. Immunity, it is the ability of a body to identify and destroy foreign substances. So many serious diseases like polio, smallpox, hepatitis, tetanus, whooping cough, these are prevented through immunization program. All right. Clear? This is all about the chapter. Thank you.